The great city of Jareen Prime shimmered like glass under a golden sun. Its towers rose in elegant curves, built from crystals that caught the light and scattered it into thousands of colors. Hovering transports moved between bridges that floated in air. Music hummed from wind channels carved into every wall. To the humans who had come from the rough, gray colonies of Earth, it looked like a dream. Commander Ethan Hayes stood at the center of it all. His boots, made for steel decks and dusted battlefields, rested on polished floors that seemed too perfect to step on. Around him, alien guards in silver armor stood still, their faces hidden behind masks of smooth metal. The hall smelled faintly of flowers and ozone. He had come as part of the Terran diplomatic corps, sent to return the artifact that had once saved the Jareen world. The object, a small black cube that pulsed faintly, hung from a chain on his chest. It was heavy, not just in weight, but in history. The Jareen called it the Core of Dawn. To Ethan, it was just another mystery humans had stumbled into while trying to survive among the stars. At the far end of the long throne hall, Princess Leora waited. She was young by Jareen standards, though her kind lived for centuries. Her skin held a soft, faint glow like moonlight on water, and her eyes were large, reflecting more than they revealed. Her robes shimmered with threads that seemed alive, changing color with each movement. Behind her throne floated a circular halo of white light, a symbol of her authority and the living energy of her planet. When Ethan entered, the music stopped. The princess raised a hand. Every alien knee bent. Only he remained standing, unsure if humans were expected to bow. He saluted instead, a clean, respectful gesture. The sound of his gloved hand striking his arm echoed softly. "Commander Ethan Hayes of Earth," said a tall official beside the throne. "Bearer of the Core of Dawn, savior of the star grid, you are summoned to the presence of Princess Leora, keeper of the Crown of Flame." Ethan nodded once. "Ma'am," he said plainly. The princess tilted her head. No one had ever called her ma'am before. To her, the words sounded oddly gentle. "You may step forward," she said. Her voice was musical, each syllable carrying a faint resonance that made the air tremble. He obeyed. As he walked, his reflection followed him in the shining floor. A contrast of rough cloth and hard armor against the perfection of the alien palace. He stopped before her throne and unhooked the cube from his chain. "This belongs to your people," he said simply. "I was told to return it in person." Leora looked at the object as if it were alive. "The Core of Dawn has slept for 1,000 years," she said. "No Jareen hand could wake it. Yet you, a being from a world we once called wild and unrefined, touched it, and it lived again." "I didn't know what it was," Ethan replied. "Just that the planet's defense grid was failing, and people were going to die. I guessed it might fit." Leora's expression softened. "A guess that saved billions," she said quietly. The court murmured, their voices rising like wind through trees. They had studied humans from afar for generations, labeling them reckless, dangerous, emotional. But now the greatest of them had bowed to a man from Earth. Leora stood from her throne. The halo of light behind her flared brighter. "By our law," she declared, "one who saves Jareen may claim a wish. Any wish ask, and it shall be done." The words hung in the air like thunder. The entire hall bowed again. Ethan blinked, unsure he had heard correctly. "A wish?" he repeated. "Anything," she said, stepping closer. "We can shape matter, bend energy, even touch time. Speak your desire, and it shall be real." He hesitated. Every instinct told him to be cautious. He had seen power destroy people, not just guns and ships, but promises. Around him, the nobles waited with expectant smiles, certain that the human would ask for something selfish. Power, wealth, immortality, the usual temptations. Ethan said nothing. Leora studied him, her gaze searching for greed or fear. She found neither. "Do humans not desire?" she asked softly. He gave a faint smile. "We do," he said. "But we also think before we talk." Her lips curved just slightly, the hint of amusement, foreign but welcome. "Then think, Commander Hayes. Jareen will wait." That night, Ethan was taken to a guest suite carved into the palace spire. The walls shimmered like silver water, adjusting color to his mood. A servant offered food grown from light itself. He tried to rest, but his mind replayed her words again and again. "You may wish for anything." He looked out the tall window. Below, the city glittered. Rivers of light flowed through the streets. Flying machines moved soundlessly across the horizon. Yet beyond all that beauty, he saw something missing. Motion without spirit. The people walked with precision but no laughter. Every smile looked practiced, not felt. He thought of Earth, the crowded cities. The smell of rain on concrete, the chaos and noise and warmth of real life. Earth wasn't perfect, but it was alive. A chime sounded. A tall Jareen woman entered, her eyes glowing faintly. "The princess wishes to dine with you at dawn," she said. "You will be escorted to the Sky Pavilion." Ethan nodded. "Tell her I'll be ready." When she left, he whispered to himself, "A wish, huh? What would a man even do with that?" Morning on Jareen was like waking inside a prism. The light changed color every second. The Sky Pavilion stood on a floating platform, surrounded by open air and drifting birds with crystal wings. The table before him was long, covered with food that seemed to glow from within. Silver fruits, steaming bread made of shining dust, and cups filled with blue liquid that smelled of wind. Liora sat across from him. Today, her robes were softer, less formal, though still brighter than anything human eyes were used to. "I hope our food is pleasing," she said. "It looks like it belongs in a museum," Ethan replied. "But it's good." She smiled faintly. "You speak honestly. Most would flatter." "Flattery doesn't feed anyone," he said. She looked at him with growing curiosity. "Your world must be strange," she said. "You risked your life for people you did not know. You give back what you could have kept. You are offered power and hesitate. Why?" He met her gaze. "Because power without purpose ruins everything." "I've seen it," leaned forward slightly. "What have you seen, human?" He took a slow breath. "Planets that forgot what work meant. People who depended on machines until they couldn't survive without them. Soldiers who fought for pride instead of peace. When I look around here, I see beauty, but I also see that same mistake." Her eyes widened. "You believe Jareen is weak?" "I believe it's asleep," he said gently. "Too much comfort can do that." The words hung between them like static. The guards nearby tensed. No one ever spoke to a royal that way. But Leora raised her hand, and they withdrew. "You speak as if you have known my people for ages," she said. "Don't need ages to see truth," he replied. She studied him, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps you are right," she said finally. "Perhaps we have forgotten what struggle means." As the day ended, Ethan wandered through the lower levels of the city. There he found workers repairing a transport line. Their hands moved slowly, uncertainly, as if they had learned from memory instead of understanding. When he asked questions, they bowed nervously and said they followed instructions from machines. Not one of them knew how the machines worked. That night, he returned to the Sky Pavilion. Leora was waiting again, looking out at the stars. "You went to the underlevels," she said without turning. "Few visitors go there." "I wanted to see who keeps this place running," he said. "Turns out no one really does." She faced him, her expression softer. "You see much, Commander Hayes?" "I see what happens when people stop learning," he answered. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the wind. Finally, she said, "Tomorrow you will stand before the celestial stone. It will obey your words." "I hope your heart guides you well," he nodded. "So do I." When he returned to his quarters, Ethan stood by the window again. The city sparkled like stars beneath his feet. He thought of Leora, her calm strength, her curiosity, the faint sadness behind her perfect poise. He wondered how a civilization so advanced could feel so empty. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years he prayed not for himself, but for understanding. He didn't know yet what he would wish for. But he knew one thing: it wouldn't be for power, or wealth, or glory. Humanity had come too far to bow for treasure. Whatever he chose, it had to mean something, not just for him, but for them all. Outside, the Jareen sun slipped below the horizon, and the glass towers turned gold. In that light, a lone human stood between two worlds, one rising, one remembering, and neither yet knew how deeply his next words would change them both. The next morning, Jareen Prime woke to pale light that turned the sky to soft gold. The palace towers gleamed like living glass. Yet inside the great hall, the air felt heavy with silence. Word had spread fast. The human still had not spoken his wish. Princess Leora sat on her balcony, watching the sun climb between the towers. Her advisors waited behind her, whispering in disbelief. 3 nights and still no request, one muttered. Perhaps humans fear their own desires, said another. Leora silenced them with a motion of her hand. No, she said softly. He is waiting for meaning. Below, Commander Ethan Hayes walked through the gardens with 2 guards. He had not slept much. The alien city was beautiful, but too clean, too quiet, as if it had forgotten how to breathe. He paused beside a fountain shaped like a spiral star. The water flowed upward instead of down. He dipped his hand into it and felt no wetness, only warmth. Like sunlight trapped in liquid form, he wondered how many centuries it had taken to make something so perfect. How many hearts had gone cold in the process. By midday, he was summoned to the Hall of Harmony, a massive chamber carved from translucent stone. Music floated from the walls themselves. Thousands of nobles sat in circles, their eyes fixed on him. In the center, the princess stood beside a long table covered in silver dishes. Commander Hayes, she said, her voice echoing gently, you have not made your wish. My council believes perhaps you do not understand the gift. I understand, Ethan replied calmly. But I don't think I need what you expect. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Leora smiled faintly. Then perhaps we will help you choose. Come join our feast. He stepped closer. The table stretched endlessly, filled with food that shone like jewel-sweet steam rising, lights flickering within glass cups. He took a seat. Leora sat across from him. Around them, musicians played instruments that looked like floating ribbons of sound. The air itself moved in rhythm. Every dish before Ethan seemed to change flavor with every breath. Yet, as he lifted his fork, he noticed something strange. The servants who carried the trays moved like machines. No expression. No spark. Their eyes were empty. Leora noticed his stare. They are the keepers, she said. They do not speak. They serve. He nodded slowly. Do they ever rest? They have no need, she said. They are designed for this. He lowered his fork. Then they're not alive. They function. They obey. What difference is there? The difference, Ethan said quietly, is that obedience isn't living. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, but curiosity. Your species values disobedience? Not disobedience, he answered. Choice. The word hung in the air. Across the hall, the music faltered. Leora studied him for a long moment before she waved a hand. Leave us, she told her court. One by one, the nobles and servants withdrew until only they remained the princess in her shining robes and the human in his worn uniform. You speak of choice, she said. Then choose. You may have a fleet of ships, command of stars, eternal youth, or knowledge beyond your kind. Name it. Ethan leaned back in his chair. I don't want ships. I've seen too many wars. I don't want youth. Life means something because it ends. And knowledge, well, that depends on who uses it. Leora folded her hands. You truly wish for nothing? He looked at her. Maybe I'm just trying to understand what something's worth before I ask for it. She tilted her head. You are either wise or very strange. He smiled. Humans are both, depending on the day. For the first time, she laughed. The sound was light, like wind chimes in motion. She caught herself, almost embarrassed. You are unlike any visitor we've ever had, she said softly. Probably because most of them came to take, Ethan replied. Humans came to learn. Learn, she repeated. You have less than half our age as a species. Maybe that's why we learn faster, he said. Later, Leora led him through the archives of Dawn, an enormous chamber filled with floating crystals. Each crystal contained images records of their past. She touched one, and light unfolded. It showed cities rising from oceans, fleets of silver ships leaving their home star, then centuries of silence. "This is our history," she said. "We conquered disease, hunger, even death. We built worlds. And then we stopped. The drive to create faded, 'cause everything was easy," Ethan said. She turned toward him. "Is it wrong to end struggle?" "Ending pain isn't wrong," he said. "But ending purpose is." She looked at him quietly. "You speak as if you pity us," he shrugged. "Maybe I do. You've got everything except reason to wake up." Leora touched another crystal. This one showed Jareen children learning by thought alone, knowledge transferred like data. "We thought this was progress," she whispered. "Now I wonder if it made us hollow." "Maybe that's what you should wish for," he said gently. She faced him, her eyes deep and uncertain. "It is not for me to wish," she said. "It is for you." That night, Leora sat in her private chamber, surrounded by light that shifted like living silk. She could not sleep. The human's words echoed in her mind: purpose, choice, living. She had spoken to 1,000 diplomats, but none had ever made her question her world. Ethan Hayes had done it in 2 days. Her advisor entered quietly. "Your Highness, tomorrow's ceremony must not delay. The stone awakens only once in a generation." "I know," she said softly. "And yet," I fear what he might ask. "Do you fear power?" He asked. "No," she whispered. "I fear change." Meanwhile, Ethan walked the city again. He found himself drawn to the lower rings, where the workers lived. The air was thicker there, the walls duller, but for the first time he heard laughter. Real laughter, rough and unpolished. Children chased glowing insects through narrow streets. Old vendors sold strange fruits that flickered like small lanterns. A group of engineers worked beside a broken transport. One noticed him and bowed nervously. "Honored guest," she said, "forgive our delay. We await command data. You don't know how to fix it?" He asked. She looked down. "We follow instructions. The core designs, we obey." He crouched beside her. "May I try?" She nodded, surprised. He pulled open a panel, studied the circuits, and began reconnecting wires. After a moment, the transport hummed to life. The crowd gasped. "How did you do that?" someone asked. "Looked at it," he said with a shrug. "Machines talk, if you listen." The workers smiled. One child clapped. The sound filled the street. For the first time, Ethan saw the Jareen look alive. When he left, they bowed deeply. He waved it off. "Don't bow," he said. "Just learn." The words spread like sparks in dry grass. The next morning, he was summoned again. The hall was filled to the brim. The nobles whispered nervously. Leora stood at the center, her expression calm but her eyes restless. "You have been seen among the lower rings," she said. "You repaired one of our machines." "Someone had to," Ethan said simply. She stepped closer. "Do you realize what that means?" "No one has done manual repair in 2 centuries. Then it's about time," he said. "Machines can't replace hands forever." Her lips tightened, but she wasn't angry. She was conflicted. "You defy our order, yet you do no harm," she said. "You correct without command?" "Why?" "Because waiting for orders never fixed anything," he said. Leora stared at him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. "Perhaps I understand now why your kind survived the death worlds. You refused to stop trying." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes that's all we have." That evening, Leora invited him to the observation tower, the highest point of the palace. From there, the city stretched in endless beauty. The stars burned close, as if within reach. "My ancestors built this place to touch eternity," she said quietly. "They believed perfection was peace. But I see no perfection is a cage." Ethan looked at her. "Then maybe it's time to open it." She turned toward him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Tomorrow, before the stone, you will make your wish. But know, this whatever you ask will echo forever. The stone obeys only truth. He nodded. Then I'll have to be honest. They stood in silence. The wind moved through the tower like breath. For the first time, she seemed less like a ruler and more like a person. Do you ever wish for anything, princess? He asked. She hesitated. I wish. To feel what your kind feels when they build something with their own hands. To fail and still try again? He smiled softly. That's humanity's favorite habit. Failure. She asked. Hope, he said. Her eyes shimmered, uncertain, almost human. Then perhaps tomorrow, she whispered. I will understand hope. When Ethan returned to his quarters that night, he found the black sky alive with streaks of light tiny drones painting patterns above the city in his honor. Yet, despite all the splendor, he felt only quiet resolve. He walked to the balcony and looked at his reflection in the glass. A wish, he said under his breath. They think it's about gain, but maybe it's about giving back. He thought of the workers, of the princess's curious eyes, of the silent servants who never smiled. He thought of a civilization asleep inside its own brilliance. Tomorrow, he would stand before a force that could shape galaxies. But the only thing he wanted was to remind them what living meant, far above. In her chamber, Leora stood by her window, watching the same stars. The wind moved through her hair. She felt something she had no word for, a mix of wonder and unease. She whispered to the night, Ethan Hayes, "What will you ask of us?" The stars gave no answer. But somewhere in their light she felt a truth, foremeaning a change that would touch both their worlds forever. The next dawn rose with a sky of silver fire. The twin sons of Jareen climbed together, casting long beams across the crystal towers. Every street, every dome, every bridge shimmered like molten glass. The entire city had gathered to witness a moment that came once in an age, the granting of the royal wish. Commander Ethan Hayes stood at the entrance of the celestial hall, his figure small against the vast doors that reached higher than mountains. The air buzzed with quiet power. The Jareen citizens filled the plazas outside, their voices low, their faces glowing softly in the morning light. Above them hovered golden drones, recording every movement, broadcasting it to all corners of the empire. Inside the hall waited Princess Leora and her council. The floor was made of pure light, shifting beneath his boots like living crystal. At the far end stood the celestial stone, a sphere of transparent energy floating above a dais, pulsed in rhythm with a slow heartbeat, the ancient heart of Jareen's civilization. When Ethan entered, the hall fell silent. Leora stepped forward, her robes whispering like wind. She was calm, but her hands trembled slightly. "Commander Hayes," she said, her voice clear. "The hour has come. Stone awakens for you." He looked at the glowing sphere, radiated warmth, like standing near the sun, yet feeling no burn. "It's beautiful," he said softly. "It is alive," she replied. "It listens only to truth. Speak your wish, and it will shape reality to your words." He nodded slowly. "I'll do my best to be honest then." The nobles around them leaned forward. Some whispered that the human might ask for his world to rise above all others. Some feared he might demand their secrets, or worse, their allegiance. No one expected humility. No one ever had. Leora raised her hand. "Before you speak, know that the stone cannot be taken lightly. Its power changes everything it touches. Choose carefully." "I already have," Ethan said quietly. He stepped closer to the sphere. The air thickened, shimmering with faint golden dust. Memories flooded through his mind. Earth's gray. Skies rain on steel decks, the laughter of his crew, the faces of those he had lost, then flashes of this alien world, towers of light, people without hope, beauty without warmth. He placed his hand upon the stone. It felt like touching water that held the universe inside. The sound in the hall faded until only his heartbeat remained. "I wish," he began slowly, "that your people remember how to build, not just to exist." The words were simple, but they carried weight. The stone flared once, and a deep hum rolled through the hall. Leora froze, her lips parted. The council gasped. The nobles rose in confusion. Ethan continued, his voice calm, steady. "You have everything. Machines that obey, cities that never break, lives without pain. But you've forgotten how it feels to make something with your own hands, to fail, to try again, to grow. That's what makes life worth living. I wish you remember that. The stone's light surged, expanding like a heartbeat of stars. The energy climbed the walls, ran along the pillars, and burst through the open roof like a column of dawn. Outside, the city stopped. Every tower flickered. The people felt something stir inside them, a warmth that was not artificial, memory buried deep in their blood. The council cried out, "He has changed the network. The archives are rewriting." Leora's eyes glowed with reflections of gold. The stone had accepted his wish. Moments later, silence returned. The light faded until only the steady hum of energy remained. Ethan lowered his hand, breathing slowly. The floor beneath him felt solid again. Leora stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "You gave your wish away?" He looked at her, calm and sure. "No," he said. "I gave it to you." "But you could have asked for anything," she said, disbelief in her tone. "Power, wealth, immortality?" "I didn't need any of that," he replied. "I just wanted to see this world wake up." She searched his face, as if trying to find some hidden reason. "You owe us nothing, because humanity doesn't save others for reward," he said. "We do it because it's right. Maybe someday you'll do the same for someone else." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her people had always acted from duty or design, never from choice. The idea of helping without gain felt impossible yet beautiful. Around them, murmurs filled the hall. Some nobles looked in awe, others in quiet anger. The High Chancellor stepped forward. "Your Highness," he said sharply, "this act could destabilize the core. We must silence," Leora said, her voice firm. It found truth in his words. "It is done." The Chancellor hesitated, then bowed and stepped back. Ethan turned to her. "Looks like I caused some trouble." Her lips curved faintly. "Yes," she said softly, "the kind that brings change." As the day passed, strange things began to happen across Jareen Prime. In the lower rings, workers looked at their machines, and for the first time, understood how they worked. Children who had once memorized lessons through thought transfer suddenly picked up tools, building small toys with their own hands. Artisans began painting again. Sculptors shaped stone. Singers rediscovered melody without technology's help. Something ancient and human, though not of earth, awoke in them, in the palace. Leora stood at her balcony, watching the city transform. The streets glowed with movement. The silent keepers, the mechanical servants, began to flicker and shut down, their purpose fading. In their place, real people stepped forward to take their place, not because they were ordered, but because they wanted to. Her advisor approached, uneasy. "Your Highness, the system balance is shifting. Production will slow. There will be confusion." Leora's eyes were on the horizon. "Then let there be confusion," she said. "Maybe that is how we learn." The advisor bowed and left, uncertain. She remained still, watching, until she heard footsteps behind her. Ethan stood there, quietly. He had changed out of his ceremonial uniform, wearing only the simple gray jacket of a pilot. "Didn't mean to cause chaos," he said with a small smile. She turned, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "You gave us life again. Chaos is part of that." He shrugged lightly. "Humans are good at chaos. You'll get used to it." She stepped closer. "You have given us something beyond our understanding. Yet you ask for nothing." He looked at her, his tone gentle. "You can't give me what I already have. And what is that?" She asked. "Purpose," he said. For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of the wind carried the laughter of children from the city below. For the first time in centuries, Jareen echoed with joy. That night, a grand gathering filled the palace courtyard. Jareen lit floating lanterns, a tradition long forgotten. Each lantern carried a name, a dream, or a memory. The sky became a sea of lights, drifting upward. Ethan stood among them, feeling strangely at peace. He had no gift to take home, no treasure to claim, yet watching those lights rise, he knew he had found what mattered most. Leora joined him, wearing a simple robe this time, without crown or jewels. "We used to do this," she said quietly. "Before machines did everything for us, it feels different." Because it's yours, he said. She looked at him with soft eyes. You changed the heart of my people with a few words. I thought we were the advanced ones. Maybe you still are, he said. But you forgot the most important thing. What's that? She asked. He looked up at the lights. Wonder. She smiled faintly, a real smile, not a royal one. Ethan Hayes, she said softly. You have given me a gift no wish could make. Later, as the festival quieted, Ethan walked alone through the silent gardens. The plants glowed gently, breathing in rhythm with the world itself. He felt the stones hum still resonating in the air, not as power, but as life. He found Leora again near the fountain of rising water. She was alone, her reflection dancing in the light. You leave tomorrow, she said without turning. Duty calls, he said. Earth needs her pilots. She faced him. And if I asked you to stay? He smiled sadly. Then I'd tell you that my world still has people who need hope too. She nodded, though her eyes dimmed. You humans, she whispered. You carry your storms wherever you go. He chuckled softly. Yeah, but sometimes storms bring rain. They stood there quietly, and she reached out, her hand brushing his sleeve. If you ever return, the stars of Jareen will know your name. He met her gaze. I don't need my name in the stars. Just make sure your people keep building. I will, she promised. When dawn came again, his ship waited on the launch platform. The Jareen gathered to watch him go. The sky blazed with gold as he saluted once more. Leora stood beside the royal banner, her expression calm, but her heart heavy. The engines roared, lifting the craft into the light. As it rose higher, the citizens began to chant, not in praise, but in thanks. Words of unity echoed through the air. Leora whispered to the wind, Farewell, human of Earth. You wished for us to awaken. Now we will. She turned toward the city. Workers already filled the streets, rebuilding old towers, repainting walls, planting gardens. The sound of tools replaced the silence that had ruled for centuries. The Empire was alive again. Far above, Ethan's ship broke through the clouds, leaving a trail of light that stretched across the sky like a promise. And somewhere deep in the heart of Jareen, the celestial stone pulsed once more, not with command, but with freedom. The world of Jareen Prime was no longer the same silent jewel it once had been. The sky still shimmered with twin suns. The crystal towers still caught the light like glass. But below those towers there were soundhammer strikes, laughter and songs rising from the streets. The city now breathed like a living heart, where mechanical keepers once worked without thought. Real citizens now filled the plazas. They built homes with their own hands, carved new bridges, and planted trees on the old floating terraces. Mist from the rivers of light cooled their faces as they labored. Their soft, perfect world had learned to sweat, and in that effort they had rediscovered joy. Princess Leora watched it all from the highest balcony of the palace. The wind played through her long silver hair. Around her, the new council discussed trade routes, resource management, and education subjects that had not mattered in centuries. The people are learning quickly, said one counselor proudly. Productivity has fallen, yet creation has risen. We are inventing again. Leora smiled faintly. That means they are truly awake. Still, there were moments she missed the quiet perfection of the old days. But then she would walk through the lower rings and see children painting walls, engineers arguing cheerfully over a broken transport, or musicians playing in the open streets. And she would remember the human's words, "You can't give me what I already have. Purpose." She carried those words inside her like a flame, across the galaxy. Far from Jareen's light, Earth had changed too. Human ships roamed the stars more freely, exploring, trading, helping new worlds rebuild after conflicts. The story of the wish that woke a world spread from planet to planet, told in classrooms, mess halls, and camps. No one knew all the details, but everyone knew one thing, that a single human had asked for hope, not power. And it had worked. One evening, Leora sat alone in the palace gardens. The air was cool, the trees humming softly. In her hands she held a small metal pendant shaped like a winging, the only human-made object she possessed. Ethan had left it behind by accident, a pilot's badge dulled by age. She had kept it ever since. A young aide approached quietly. "Your Highness, a vessel from Earth requests audience. They say they come in peace." Leora's heart skipped once. "Earth." "Yes," the aide said. "They bear the flag of the Terran fleet." "Prepare the hall," she said softly. "And bring flowers. Real ones." The next day, the Starlight Envoy, a sleek human cruiser, descended through the glowing clouds of Jareen Prime. Its silver hull reflected the sunrise as it landed near the palace terraces. Thousands gathered to watch the species that once viewed humanity as primitive, now cheered their arrival. From the ship emerged a group of Earth envoys in gray and blue uniforms. At their head walked Captain Alina Hayes. She was tall, calm, with steady gray eyes and a badge identical to the one Leora kept. When the princess saw it, her breath caught. "You carry his name," Leora said as the humans bowed. Alina nodded. "Commander Ethan Hayes was my father. He passed 3 years ago." The hall fell silent. Leora's hands tightened slightly. "He is gone?" Elena's voice was steady but gentle. "He lived long enough to see peace between 3 worlds. He said he left something precious here." Leora's gaze softened. "He did," she whispered. "He left himself in what he taught us." After the formal greetings, the 2 women walked together through the sky gardens. The air was warm and filled with drifting pollen that glowed faintly in the sunlight. Birds of crystal feathers flew above. "My father spoke often of you," Alina said. "He called you the bravest soul he ever met." Leora smiled sadly. "He called me that after I made him wait 3 days before the wish." They both laughed quietly. The sound was easy, natural, the sound of 2 worlds that no longer feared each other. Alina looked around. "Your city is alive," she said. "He would have loved to see this," Leora nodded. "He did not change us with power. He changed us with truth. Every child here now learns not only logic and science, but also craft, history, and art. We call it the Hayes curriculum." Alina smiled with pride. "He would have been embarrassed by that name." "Then it fits him perfectly," Leora said softly as they walked. Leora noticed something strange in the captain's eyes, worry, mixed with purpose. "You did not travel all this way only to visit," she said. Alina hesitated, then nodded. "No. Earth faces a crisis. A solar storm destroyed many of our relay stations. We've lost communication with half our colonies. We need energy technology strong enough to rebuild the network." Leora paused. "And you came to ask for help," Alina said, "but not as a demand. As a friend?" The princess looked out over the city. "There was a time when we gave nothing without condition," she said quietly. "But your father wished for us to remember how to build, not to take. Perhaps it is time to build together." She turned to her council that evening and spoke with firm resolve. "Prepare our engineers," she commanded. "Jareen will answer Earth's call." Within days, joint teams of Jareen and human scientists filled the palace laboratories. The air buzzed with collaboration languages blending, laughter echoing through one silent halls. Together, they designed new solar shields, built new transmitters, and created a shared network that linked their worlds for the first time. For Leora, it felt like destiny completing a circle, where once a single human had saved them. Now her people could repay the light. At night, she often walked through the workshops, watching young Jareen working side by side with human engineers. Some argued, some sang as they worked, some drew plans on walls. It reminded her of Ethan, bending over that first broken transport in the lower rings, showing her people what it meant to listen, to try, to care. One evening, she stood in the observatory beside Captain Alina, watching the twin suns set. "Our network is nearly ready," Alina said. "It will bring light to dozens of systems. And it will carry his legacy even farther," Leora said. The captain smiled. "You talk about him as if he's still here." Leora looked at the horizon. "Perhaps he is. Every time someone builds with their hands or chooses kindness over gain, he lives again." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Alina took something from her pocket, a small, folded data crystal. "This was his final message," she said. "He wanted it delivered to you." Leora hesitated, then accepted it with trembling hands. She placed the crystal into a reader. A soft blue image appeared. Ezen Hayes, older now, his hair gray, but his eyes still warm. Leora, his recorded voice said, "If you're hearing this, it means I couldn't return. Don't be sad. I had my wish granted the day I saw your people laugh again. You taught me that peace isn't built with weapons or fear, but with faith in each other. Keep building. Keep teaching. And if your stars ever grow dark, look toward Earth. You'll see the light we share." The message faded. Leora stood still for a long time. Then she smiled through the shimmer in her eyes. "Still giving orders?" she whispered. Elena looked down, moved. "He believed you were the best leader he ever met." Leora shook her head softly. "No, I was only the one wise enough to listen." Months later, the new Starlink Array combined human-Jareen project was completed. It glowed across the void, connecting worlds with beams of energy as bright as dawn. The day it came online, both planets celebrated together. On Earth, people looked up and saw new stars forming patterns in the night sky. On Jareen, the celestial stone pulsed once more, humming in harmony with the array. It was as if the universe itself had acknowledged the bridge between their hearts. During the ceremony, Leora spoke before her people and the human visitors. Her voice carried across the open plaza. 5 years ago, a man from a young world stood here and was offered everything. He asked for nothing but for us to remember ourselves. Today we return that gift. Let the bond between Earth and Jareen remind us that creation, not conquest, shapes destiny. The crowd cheered, and the sky exploded with colors from both worlds, human fireworks and Jareen light orbs dancing together. Music echoed through the streets, not the mechanical tones of the past, but true melodies born from human and alien hands. Later that night, after the celebrations faded, Leora walked alone to the ancient balcony where she had first met the human. The wind was soft, carrying faint laughter from below. She held Ethan's pendant in her palm and whispered, "You were right, Ethan Hayes. Gratitude fades, but strength endures. You asked us to wake hand now. We never will sleep again." She raised the pendant to the sky. The light from the Starlink Array reflected in its metal, glowing faintly like a second sun. Somewhere among those distant lights was Earth, alive and waiting far away. On a small moon base orbiting Mars, Captain Elena Hayes looked up at that same glow. "He'd be proud," she said quietly. Beside her, a Jareen engineer smiled. "No," he replied. "He'd be working." They laughed together. The sound carried through the base, the kind of laughter that comes when people share the same sky. Years later, historians from both species would write about the wish of Jareen. The day a single human changed the course of 2 civilizations, not with strength, but with humility. They would speak of the princess who listened, and of the light that still connects their worlds. But for those who lived it, it was simpler. It was the story of a man who asked for nothing, and gave everything, and in the quiet between stars, the celestial stones still pulsed gently, whispering across time and space, "Remember what it means to build."